Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Saturday morning to you all. Hope everyone is doing awesome out there this morning and having a fantastic start to your Saturday and a great start to your weekend. Here to bring you the latest information on what's going to happen weather-wise for today, and we'll ooze a little bit into our Easter also. We'll talk about a couple things. Very soggy California out there, some energy moving across the Ohio Valley. Some energy will refire across the Midwest and Ohio Valley later this afternoon, bringing a shot of some strong to severe storms. We'll speak on everything. After we do that, take advantage of those timestamps. You definitely want to know what's to come, and we're going to speak on a significant storm system that is actually what is bringing all that rain to California right now. We'll continue to cruise across the western U.S. with this trough in place, and then a low will eject across the middle of the country, bringing a whole lot of weather for a lot of people. We're talking severe weather for a few days, and one day, Monday specifically, could be a pretty significant threat of severe weather. Tuesday will be a threat too, and also tomorrow is a threat of severe weather, kind of driven off something different. But tomorrow will be, I think tomorrow has a chance to uptick. As of now, just a very large marginal risk, but I could see tomorrow definitely uptrending for your Easter across areas of the Midwest Ohio Valley. We'll speak on that, and then we'll speak on the winter weather side of the system as northern stream energy basically merges with southern stream energy and then creates the opportunity for a pretty significant late season winter storm and northwest flow snow event across areas of the eastern U.S. So we're going to cover all of this. There's a lot to talk about. This system could be very dynamic, meaning severe weather on one side, snow on the other. So we got a lot to talk about over the next few days, and we're going to cover it all. Utilize those timestamps. Everything will be sectioned out very well for you folks to utilize, so definitely take advantage of those. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it, and if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling. So we're going to start off by looking at radar like we always do. A lot of moisture in the southwest. Rain continues to funnel into California. We actually have some flash flood warnings ongoing, I believe, north of LA. So just a fire hose of moisture that continues. Higher elevation snow in the Sierra Nevada. Scattered moisture across the central Rockies. The immediate central U.S. is pretty quiet. We do have some snow out in the northern high plains and Wyoming. Raining in some areas, snowing in others. This big area of rain is just cruising across the Great Lakes region, Ohio Valley. A little bit of freezing rain, wintry mix up here in northern Wisconsin, some snow in the UP. Still got some wraparound snow you're dealing with up here in eastern sections of Maine and up here in New Brunswick. So I would say, I wouldn't say the biggest storyline today, but one of the storylines today is once all this rain moves out of Indiana and Ohio, you have a little bit of a clearing today. This will open up the opportunity for a short wave moving through Iowa right now, starting to move into Illinois. This short wave, which is energy basically aloft, will spark the opportunity for some strong to severe storms in the Midwest today. So we'll speak on that. And of course, the other heavy topic, which will be the bigger topic, is all this energy out west that will continue to move across the Rockies. But the Storm Prediction Center for today, there is a risk of that strong to severe storms here in the Ohio Valley more so, and this is a very small portion of Indiana right through the heart of Ohio all the way into West Virginia. We'll see what happens with this today. As of now, level 1 out of 5 risk. There is a risk of some thunderstorms here in the western U.S., but not a big deal, not a real risk of severe weather. But a tornado threat below 2% does not show up. Wind threat below 5% does not show up, but there is a 5% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger in this brown area. We'll see if some things change. We could get an increase in one of those other, like the wind outlooks, tornado outlooks, but as of now, I think this will stay a marginal risk, but we could have some isolated supercells. Some broad rotations, very possible in Ohio today. So we'll watch and we'll kind of zoom into Ohio here in a second. Excessive rainfall outlook. The only area we got to worry about for any kind of flash flooding is down here in the Southern California coastline, LA, San Diego. There's a slight risk, which means at least a 15% risk of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance within 25 miles in any given location. These areas will get a few inches of rain today. And so definitely be aware of any flash flooding down here. Watches, warnings, advisories. Wind advisory still up here in Maine. Some lingering winter weather advisories for some ongoing light snow that will clear out today. Winter weather advisories continuing up here for northern Wisconsin, northeastern sections of Minnesota. Red flag warnings where we still have that fire danger down here in New Mexico and now more so southeastern Colorado. Winter weather advisories for the higher elevations of Arizona and just basically all the southern and central sections of the Rockies. Same thing with Nevada. And then winter storm warnings up for even the the coastal ranges, like not up against the coast, but just inland, sort of just east of LA and these places. Even just east of San Diego has winter storm watches in those higher elevations. But winter storm warnings up for these mountain ranges in the Sierra Nevada, same deal. Even some winter storm watches up for like the Black Hills regions of South Dakota with some several inches of snow that could be possibly on the way for that area. The southeast today, it's going to be a phenomenal weather day today for 99% of this area. You're going to see a little bit of rain on, the top of your screen up here, but that really doesn't count as the southeast anyways. But we'll get into about midday this afternoon. Beautiful day. Some showers and storms, though, very possible up here in northern Kentucky. Could form later this afternoon, this evening. But the immediate southeast, I mean, you might get a shower or two down here in the southern half of Florida, very isolated, but the ridge is really protecting y'all with stable, warmer than average air down here in the southeast. A nice warm day and just nice, comfortable day for outdoor activities and anything you got planned with the family or anything at all. So, northeast, starting this morning, we will continue to deal with this light snow in eastern Maine, but this will eventually clear on out. Area of rain will cruise over Ohio, move into Pennsylvania. By the time we're about 2, 3 o'clock this afternoon, it's raining in western Maryland, northern West Virginia. It's raining in the heart of PA. And then this moisture will make it all the way into the Delmarva region, New Jersey, New York City. This evening, about 8 p.m., we are dealing with some light rain. And then check out those storms in Ohio. Even some scattered convection, maybe some thunderstorms rumbling out there. Across central PA, could be cruising, but I do think they get displaced from the main ingredients. But we could get some storms later this afternoon, really this evening, that cruise through northern Kentucky, West Virginia. Definitely could have some small hail with some of these storms, and then they'll break apart as they kind of round the northeastern section of this ridge, kind of lose some steam. I mean, this is almost kind of like a Ridge Rider setup, and we'll talk more on that as we get deeper into the warm months. Like, Mitch, what does Ridge Riders mean? It's actually just a weather term that we use, kind of some lingo that becomes a dominant pattern once we have these dominant ridges in place once we get deeper into summer. But definitely raining in sections of the Delmarva later overnight tonight. Then we're getting into our Sunday morning, waking up to pretty calm conditions for your Easter morning. It looks like that snow that we thought maybe we could get in New York states for your Easter morning once upon a time is trending towards fizzling out by the time it gets to the interior northeast. So, but a little bit closer to Ohio and surrounding states. Once that morning rain clears on through, it's around 4 or 5 p.m. Look at those storms firing off just south of Cleveland. If you live in this area, certainly be aware of any thunderstorms today. If you're, get out there and that rain clears out, the sun might start shining. You think it's going to be a beautiful day. It could be. You might not get a drop of rain, but definitely be aware of these thunderstorms here in Ohio. And then they'll become a little bit more widespread for a period once you get to 8, 9, 10 p.m. tonight. Start affect areas of southern Ohio, getting into northern West Virginia, northern Kentucky, and then they'll cruise deeper south as you get deeper into the night. Moving into the south central U.S., not a whole lot going on here today either. I mean, pretty quiet weather this afternoon, getting into this evening. Getting into the overnight hours, a little bit of shower activity, some spotty popcorn kind of showers going on in Missouri as a warm front begins to ride in. That should set the stage for some strong to severe storms in the Midwest tomorrow. But over the next 24 hours, it's rather quiet. There's not a whole lot going on. There's some energy starting to fire off the Rockies. Pretty quiet weather for your Saturday. Enjoy today, especially considering the fact that we do have some nasty weather on the way over the next couple days. North central U.S. dealing with a little bit of a wintry mix. Let me know what you're seeing up there in the northern counties of Wisconsin. But just kind of a more put together area of snow that will sweep through the UP of Michigan throughout the morning hours and the early afternoon hours. Could be heavy at times. Northern lower Michigan, some wet snow could fall throughout the afternoon. But then this clears out, starts to fizzle out once it gets into areas of Ontario and Quebec. And then we start to see some energy begin here in the northern plains in the form of rain and snow in South Dakota, especially overnight tonight. And we'll have a separate little segment for this here in a second. But the snowfall that I just mentioned for the UP, northern Wisconsin, inch and a half of wet snow in the UP of Michigan through the morning and afternoon hours. Not a big deal at all. So just be aware of that. But the northern plains, starting off this morning, we got that snow in Wyoming. Energy will continue to spread north. It's still pretty warm out here compared to average. I wouldn't even say compared to average. We're getting almost to April at this point. So, even the average temperatures have warmed significantly. Average high temperatures have warmed significantly up here in the northern plains. But as we get into the afternoon hours, you could even get a thunderstorm in this area. It's very possible. But we start to get into the evening. The temperatures begin to cool back down again. This is about midnight, 1, 2 a.m. in the morning. And we start to get some heavy wet snow that begins to fall in the northern counties of South Dakota. Certainly the Black Hills region too. And we're just getting this steady stream of moisture that's moving in from the southwest, riding on top of this ridge. And we're waking up tomorrow morning for your Easter morning to some heavy wet snow across areas of South Dakota. And then we're starting to get into Sunday afternoon, just scattered moisture across Wyoming in the form of some heavy snow, lower elevation rain. And then we'll have, another round of snow that moves into South Dakota, especially western South Dakota, even starting to move into western Nebraska as we are getting into our April 1st. So we'll extend that a little bit further once we get to another panel in this video. But between now and Monday evening, April 1st evening, it's really bullseyeing this area of higher elevation, which is the Black Hills area. Maybe 8 to 12 inches of snow depending on your elevation. But just outside of this region, scattered 2 to 5 inch snowfall amounts for South Dakota, for areas in Nebraska, northern Nebraska, and then a lot more snow for the higher elevations, the Bighorn Mountains, Yellowstone National Park, Laramie Range. All you guys will get several inches of snow in this region of Wyoming for sure. Not a whole lot into Montana though. Western U.S., really the focal point of the weather is certainly California. You continue to get this low that continues to spin around, bring just a fire hose of moisture into Southern California. But even other areas will just get kind of a convective feed. It could have some rumbles of thunder, some just thunderstorms with this kind of wraparound moisture that continues to spin into the California coastline. And once this gets inland to California, reaches those higher elevations, squeeze out more moisture. Higher elevation snow will fall. And then eventually, we're getting into tomorrow morning, and we could have some snow flying around for your Easter morning in the higher elevations of Arizona, certainly Nevada, and then Utah. So we continue just to get rounds of rain down here in Southern California. Here's a closer look at this, right? We're getting into about midday today. Look at just steady rain from LA down to San Diego. And then once you get more so up to like between San Francisco down to LA and the entire Central California coastline, more of just sporadic bursts of heavy rain, some rumbles of thunder, but it just continues to hit the LA to San Diego corridor pretty hard with just a funnel of moisture. But eventually this will lose some steam getting into the wee hours of the morning tomorrow morning, and you get more so just kind of rounds of thunderstorms, kind of get a break on and off. It's just not a consistent rain, but then you'll just get rounds, like I said, of just heavy rain that kind of makes its way through. And then some of this moisture will eventually get into western New Mexico as we're getting into tomorrow evening for sure. So this only takes us all the way out to the middle of the night, Sunday night to Monday morning. Well, out west, this would be kind of late Sunday evening, so just scattered moisture across the area. But how much rain are we expecting? This is just precipitation, but no snow down here except some of these higher elevations just off the California coastline. But San Diego to LA, 1 to 2.5 inches of rain is very possible. A lot of rain coming up over the next 36 hours. Bullseye of rain right over Arizona. Some of this is snow, most of it's rain. But you look at the snow in this setup. Sierra Nevada will continue to get several inches of snow. Higher elevations, mountain ranges here in Arizona. Several inches of snow is also possible. Flagstaff could get some snow. Scattered snows across Nevada depending on your elevation. And of course, we've already talked about Wyoming up here. So definitely be aware of the weather, active weather moving in for sure. So let's talk about this system coming up. And I know this portion of the video is probably not going to help help a lot of people, but this is important because I want to show you guys why this turns into such a dynamic system, especially as it gets into the eastern U.S. Later into next week. So one thing I want you to notice is this big blue blob down here. This is an area of lower pressure. We call this an upper trough, sometimes a cutoff low of low pressure. It's called many things. We'll just call it an upper trough, an upper low. All right, and then you see this area of blue kind of coming up on your screen up here on the top right here from Canada. This is going to dive down, and this is going to continue to sort of drift eastward. Don't really pay attention to these areas of energy, but you also can pay attention to this ridging right here. You see this area of warmer colors, kind of this yellowish orange color? That is our ridge built in place right in here. And a lot of your flow goes just like this over that, and that is why, you know, we're having sort of this energetic flow right here into the Ohio Valley today, kind of into tomorrow. Most of your energy is sort of taking this route over this ridge. And in fact, I'm going to do this on the fly because I'm tired of just kind of pointing. I should have had this up. We're going to pull up the pen and try to draw on this right in here. So most of your energy is kind of flowing like this. All right, so you got kind of energy kind of going like this over the next couple days. I'm talking about today into tomorrow more so. But as we get more so into our Monday, this really won't influence what's going on as much. So that's why we're having such a nice day across the southeast. Ridge overhead, high pressure dominating. It's just nice. Now as we continue to move forward, okay, there's a couple things happening. We got energy coming in from the north, northern stream energy, and obviously a large chunk of southern stream energy. This becomes kind of a cutoff upper low, if you will, still an upper trough, and you see the tilt on this is more so positive. This is a positively tilted trough. If it was tilted like this would be neutrally tilted. Okay, take all this off. If it was tilted like that more so, this would be negatively tilted. And typically they kind of just tilt just like this. It's a sign of a strengthening storm system. But just because you have a positively tilted trough does not mean you get a weaker severe weather setup. It doesn't always mean that. Typically when you get the negatively tilted troughs, you get a lot more dynamic weather, sure. And you will see that kind of unfold as we get deeper into what I'm showing you. So what's going to happen here is this upper trough, you're going to have a surface low that sort of rides into right here. Okay, probably going to be a little bit further north. But surface low is going to ride into here and basically flies around the base of this trough off the eastern side. Okay, this is going to spark a lot of severe weather probably into this region right here. I know that looks ugly, but right into this area, right into here. Okay, we get this off here and we keep this rolling because we're staying way too long on this. And we start to move here in time. We get into Tuesday morning, right? All right. This trough begins to connect with the northern stream energy. So Tuesday, we continue to have this strung out, positively tilted trough that's kind of strung out all the way down here into like Texas and northern Mexico. This is continuing to pull in a pretty moist feed into this region right into here. But this is starting to now combine with that northern stream energy. You see what just happened there? You see how this area, this blue blob sort of came down and combined with this larger blue blob? This is what we call the phasing of the southern stream and northern stream. And as they do that, it brings an injection of cold air into this. So as we get into Wednesday, I think the severe weather threat for the most part looks done. The winter weather side of this really takes over. And as it drops down, combines with this, we could have some sort of locked in spinning area of lower pressure that really just takes over the Great Lakes region, the eastern U.S., and especially the Northeast. And then this is when this could become wrapped up, really turn into a much stronger low pressure and just plague the Northeast for a couple days with higher elevation snow, lower elevation rain. But with this shot of cold air that really gets into this from the northern stream, we could have some snow even as far south as like Boston. So it's something to watch. It's like, this comes in, really injects this system with colder air. And then also we're going to have wraparound energy from the back side, this area of lower pressure, that's going to potentially create what we call a northwest flow snow events a late season one at that too. Could have definitely some April snow down to West Virginia, which isn't totally unheard of. I think we had it last year too. I think we had it in May last year. So yeah, there's a lot going on. I did not intend to spend so long on that, but anyways, I think it's important to show to kind of explain what's going on. But Sunday morning, okay, we'll kind of take a look at the evolution of this storm based off precipitation types here on Weather Bell. We get into Sunday about midday. We got some snow in the northern plains. You see this area of just green? This could be in the form of storms. Okay, and we keep this going. We got this initial low kind of riding up on the upper portion of this ridge, which is kind of settled right in here. And all this green you see right in here Sunday afternoon, this will likely be in the form of storms. We'll actually zoom into this area here in a second. We'll take a better look at what those storms could look like in Missouri, even areas of Iowa and Illinois, all the way into Ohio, Indiana. So this kind of flies through, probably turns into just widespread rains and thunderstorms up here. And then another low. See this low that kind of comes in right into here? Another low comes in. Now this is going to be the low right into here that creates all the crazy weather. All right, you got snow, more of a consolidated area of snow flying around Monday morning, April 1st. Up here in northern Nebraska, and then just more so in South Dakota. And then you got a 999 millibar low just north of Springfield, cruising over Missouri, and this is Monday afternoon. Now, I know this just looks like areas of green right into here, but this will likely be strong to severe storms. And if not storms, heavy rain. Okay, we continue just to have a lot of moisture on top of this. There's probably going to be some sort of warm front right into here, and kind of a separation between more surface-based storms and kind of elevated storms. Surface-based storms are storms that, we'll just leave it at this, are stronger, severe. Elevated storms, they're not really latched on to kind of the wind field, if you will. You're not probably going to get tornadoes from elevated storms, more so a hail threat. Just displaced from the main thermodynamics to really drive the severe weather threat. So we're getting into Monday afternoon. There's a lot of weather ongoing. We get into Monday night. This low continues to head on off as this upper trough begins to sink and kind of begins to combine at this point with the northern stream energy. And just a lot of rains, it looks like, over the Mississippi Valley, the south central U.S. And then we start to get into the eastern U.S. And that's when we'll go on and move into that. So let's go on and just take it into our Tuesday morning. Couple things going on, really one thing, there'll probably be a lot of showers and storms riding over the Midwest Ohio Valley. I know it just looks like blobs of green, but you're probably getting heavy rain, thunderstorms, gusty winds, probably a lingering severe weather threat. And I wouldn't be surprised down here in the Mississippi River Valley, you're getting a ongoing line of storms, what we call an MCS, mesoscale convective system. As you are continuing to move into your Tuesday afternoon, April the 2nd, this is when the dynamics really start to kick in. You're starting to see splotches of blue mixing in with this green. Means that cold air is starting to inject into the system. So 993 millibar low right up here. Basically, don't pay attention too much of the lows right now. A little bit maybe of some convective feedback between showing two lows. There could very well be two lows. There's always little embedded pieces of energy in the atmosphere that's hard to really see unless we get really close and look at real-time observations. But you see how this area right here is kind of like scrawny, kind of down here? It's just an area of green. That's likely going to be a line of thunderstorms, most likely, I really think, as we are getting into Tuesday afternoon. Now, I do think it'll be the most intense right into here. And I do think you'll have more so multi-clusters of storms, discrete supercells, semi-discrete right into here. Why? It's because, let's get this back off your screen, this low right in here is bringing the most favorable kinematics right here into this region right into here. So you got probably a low-level jet kind of underlapping a maxed out mid-level jet. The reason I say maxed out is because when this northern stream energy that's diving down here is starting to combine with the southern stream energy, that mid-level jet really gets ramping. Low-level jet does too. So a lot of winds over the Apps, regardless if you get storms or not. Tuesday afternoon, things start to get wild in the Appalachian Mountains and just west especially. So you get this off and this low continues, right? And this is when it really gets that injection of cold air. Snow starts to fall up here. in areas of like Ontario, Quebec. It starts to snow in southern lower Michigan. You see this 540 line kind of diving down, cold air getting wrapped around this huge area of low pressure right here. This is going to kickstart some northwest flow. Now, I think Wednesday morning we have some ongoing storms down here in the southeast also. But look at this low trying to crank up really off the coast of New England. And as we're getting into Wednesday afternoon, April the 3rd, heavy snow, I do think, begins to break out at minimum over the interior northeast, interior New England. This is the main low right here. Could be a big system for Atlantic Canada too. Rains tries to start to switch to Boston, to snow to Boston. And then look at this backside energy pivoting around this huge area of low pressure coming down right into here. This is going to have a shot of cold air with it, and this is probably going to kickstart a northwest flow event for the southern Appalachian and central Appalachian mountains. And watch what happens as you keep on moving. Look at this snow that begins to fall as far south as North Carolina and Tennessee, definitely West Virginia. And then this really gets cold air involved as we're getting into Thursday morning. 978 millibar low. And you are getting an all-out nor'easter, an early April nor'easter up here in the northeast. I mean, eventually you lose some of the influence of cold air, but it's going to be a crazy week next week for the Northeast. It is. It really is. So let's talk about the impacts from all this and then the severe weather outlook, and then we'll talk about how much snow could potentially be with this setup. Of course, we don't know the exact forecast. So tomorrow for your Easter, Storm Prediction Center outlook. Huge marginal risk that goes from, pretty much southeastern Nebraska, northeastern Kansas, all the way to the mountains of West Virginia, including northern Kentucky, in this huge area. Right now, just a marginal risk. There is a 2% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location in northern Missouri, right through the heart of Illinois, all the way to Indianapolis, just north of Evansville, Indiana. Wind threat, 5% risk of damaging winds, and then hail threat for this entire marginal risk. I could see a slight risk getting issued in this area right here for tomorrow. Definitely could. All right, so this is driven more so off kind of energy, just flying through the northern portion of this ridge, which is built into place more so like this, and energy kind of riding into this region. Numerous thunderstorms, regardless if they're severe, strong, or not. Okay, and just a closer look at this, starting off our Easter Sunday morning, tomorrow morning. Some storms already ongoing, possibly. And then as we were getting into about midday, it's about 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, some big storms around the Peoria region, just right here in central Illinois. There could be a boundary right here. In fact, there will be somewhere in here, basically a warm front boundary separating drier, stable air with warmer, moist air, which obviously is to the south, more stable air to the north. If any of these storms latch onto that warm front boundary, they're going to have an increased chance to really spin, some rotation. Could be a tornado. Okay, so please be aware of this. These will be pretty quick moving storms. It'll eventually race into Indiana. It's about 4 p.m., 3 p.m. in Indiana tomorrow afternoon, Lafayette right into here, and you got a big storm kind of riding through. I think these storms up here more so elevated in northern Illinois, but we got to figure out how far north this warm front will be. More of a hail threat with these storms, and you kind of keep these going. These race off throughout Indiana. Watch out Indianapolis, just the central areas of Indiana especially. Once they start to kind of ride into this region up here, they start to kind of flow into more of a stable atmosphere. But check it out. As we're getting to 7, 8 p.m. tomorrow, look at this nasty storm. Any of these storms that hang out along the southern flank of all this other moisture, like this one, kind of really close to the Indianapolis region, they could produce some large hail and a tornado risk. And I know that the tornado threat is more so right into here, but it could get extended into Indiana, and then these head on off. And then we're still getting storms like late into the evening, like some more storms form. And then these will have even a tornado threat with them, guys. So storms flying through us like 11 p.m., midnight tomorrow night. And we still got storms flying through northern Illinois, some storms down here in Missouri, and these kind of continue. And then this is as far out as we can go all the way out into tomorrow night. I don't want to leave my folks in Ohio hanging either. Here comes these storms. Let's go back to this. And yes, Sunday, here it comes. And some shower storms are possible in northern Kentucky. And then, like I said, as we start to get into Sunday afternoon, 5, 6 p.m., some storms will start to ride into Ohio. Could get some storms around Dayton, Columbus. I definitely think Ohio, Indiana, there'll be a separation between, like I said, warmer and moist air and more drier, stable air up here to the north into lower Michigan. But just watch these storms that ride a boundary. I call them ridge riders. And these storms can be packing a punch in this entire region right into here. Okay? And then eventually they'll kind of begin to sag that way because the ridge begins to round off. The ridge is a really cool thing to talk about. It really is, especially when we get deeper into the summer. Ain't a whole lot to talk about. You can really start to talk heavily on these kind of micro things, if you will. But definitely some stormy times tomorrow evening in Ohio. And you start to see some of that cold air starting to merge and catch up with this. And then this all becomes pretty much elevated at this point. The big threat is for Monday. Okay, we have an enhanced risk of severe weather. Meaning we have in this area level 3 out of 5 risk in the orange. Okay, and then in the yellow, we have a slight risk, level 2 out of 5, and then the marginal, level 1 out of 5. So what is this driven off of? Well, we're still technically at day 3. What we do know is there is a 30% chance of severe weather in this red area within 25 miles in a given location. This includes everyone just west of St. Louis, just south of Kansas City, Springfield, Columbia, Jefferson, Missouri, down here to Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Fayetteville, Arkansas, southeastern sections also of Kansas. But you see this black outlined area right in here? That is a 10% risk of severe weather. What severe weather? There's going to be damaging winds, tornadoes, wind. We need to figure that out. I was reading the Storm Prediction Center today, this morning before I made this video, and it makes sense. The highest threat of severe weather, no doubt, is going to be right here in this area, right where you're tucked in closest to that actual surface low. Okay, so that is the outlook for Monday. So if we take a closer look at this, and we're just going to start this off right off the dot by looking at Monday morning, and then we're going to take a look at all the ingredients. There's the low, still kind of cruising over Kansas. All right, at this point, it's the morning hours. You could have some moisture ongoing in Iowa, some storms very possible. But as we start to move into about midday Monday, 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we start to see these splotches of yellows and orange. These will likely be thunderstorms developing, and they're really close to this surface low. So your kinematics are going to be maxed out right up against this surface low. What happens with this is you have these upper troughs, and then surface lows are short wave troughs. We call it all kinds of things. Energy that rounds the sides of these troughs. And here's a main area of energy. And what you watch for is how strong are these areas of energy? How strong are these little surface lows? In this case, this one's pretty strong. So this one forms, it brings its own low-level jet, if you will, its own kinematic field that basically powers up all these storms and creates a favorable wind field in this region. So the closer you are to these storms, the better lift, the better probably spin in the atmosphere, and just more favorability of probably storms that could produce wind damaging winds. So you keep this going, and bang, you see how these storms explode right in here. Now, you're probably having a raging low-level jet right into this region, powering all these storms. You got plenty of moisture riding all the way up into probably a boundary. We call it a triple point, which is where your best lift is, your best thermodynamics is, and your best kinematics are. And that'll be right here in this entire region, right into here, right along the surface low. So you keep this going. All these storms right in here were not in range of these mesoscale models that could really show the true structure of these storms. But all these storms right in here could be producing all hazards. It really could. And then as we keep going, I think as we get later into the evening, this will probably develop into more of a cluster of storms, a mesoscale convective system, and then cruise towards the Mississippi Valley, and then areas of Arkansas, and then head on out. Then some cold air tries to ooze in, and then we stabilize the atmosphere. We take a better look at all this. As far as ingredients, Monday morning, you already have a massive, broad, moist sector rising all the way up into Kansas and Missouri. Dew points, certainly supportive of severe weather. And I'll go over this again. Dew points is a thermodynamic, surface temperatures, thermodynamics, lapse rates, thermodynamics, and then your storm fuel Cape value thermodynamics. When you're talking about mid, low-level jets, That's kinematics. So that is your favorable wind field that overlaps these favorable thermodynamics, and you're going to have a large, broad area where that happens. You have the overlapping of supportive ingredients for severe weather. So, you start to get into your Monday afternoon. You can actually tell where that surface low is. It's right in here, because typically around the surface low just north of it, you get a dramatic drop-off of supportive thermodynamics. South of the low, it's plenty supportive for severe weather. And here it is, dew points in this area well into the mid to upper 60s, and eastern Oklahoma, southeastern Kansas into Missouri, areas of Arkansas down to Texas, where you will have the highest severe weather threat. But you also have that extension and a warm front boundary setting up in the Ohio Valley Midwest, where you'll also have severe weather in this region too. And I know I just kind of left you guys hanging, but we'll talk more about the Ohio Valley from Monday too. I promise. Just was really focusing in on what I think will be the hardest hit areas. But you start to get into Monday evening, Monday night, and as you can tell, northern stream energy begins to kind of merge with this, and you start to get the collapsing somewhat of this massive warm and moist sector in this region. There's a ton of moist air though down here in this region. And due to those high levels of moisture at the surface, you're probably going to have higher levels of of CAPE values. So, you start to get into about midday Monday, right up to the surface low, you got CAPE values well over 1,000 joules per kilogram, 1,500 joules per kilogram, that extend all the way through the heart of Oklahoma, all the way down to Texas. It's just, are we going to have enough lift for thunderstorms down here in Texas? But or are we going to have some kind of capping down here, warm air aloft? But man, a ton of fuel in the atmosphere. Anytime you have a setup like this and you have CAPE values over 1,000 joules per kilogram, 1,000 joules per kilogram, mixed layer CAPE, this is pretty much rocket fuel for these thunderstorms to fuel off of. And it's there. And I mean, plenty of fuel in the atmosphere all the way down into Arkansas overnight into Monday evening, where I think as we start to get deeper into the evening, Monday evening, severe weather threat will begin to shift somewhat southeast with a ongoing, probably nasty line of storms sweeping through Arkansas, Boot Hill, Missouri, maybe all the way into Tennessee, Mississippi, and Louisiana, western Kentucky, and those areas for sure. And then we look at the ingredients as far as kinematics. And this is pretty much cut and dry, folks. You got a huge positively tilted upper trough right in here, and you see this mid-level max right in here embedded into this region. This will ride over what will be a massive favorably set up as far as thermodynamics, and you see this region right into here. You got this 70, 80 knot mid-level jet riding over this area, creating plenty of forcing for thunderstorms right into here. Plenty of forcing. Rides right over that region. And then the last thing you'll look at here is that low-level jet, which we're starting to get in range that we can kind of pay attention to now. And, as we are starting to get into our... Come on, get out of here. I don't know what's going on with the little white stuff down there. But, we start to get into our... And we're everywhere here. Start to get into our Monday. And there's the low-level jet already ongoing. You got this 45, 55 knot low-level jet riding over this region. And then it does start to kind of somewhat fizzle out. Let me make sure we got this going on right, because it just seems like we're everywhere here. Pivotal weather is a great site for severe weather, but it can be very finicky, that's for sure. And, getting into Monday, here we go. Monday, yeah, low-level jet really ongoing right here. How much of a low-level jet are you going to have, though, once you get into the more favorable time of the day? It does look like it begins to kind of fizzle out a little bit. Not as kind of large, but as we're starting to get into Monday evening, it's certainly there. You can see where that surface low is right in here with the turning of the wind barbs, but certainly 30, 40 knot low-level jet riding over this region right into here, and that's totally supportive for a turning in the atmosphere for sure, directional shear. So we start to get into our Tuesday. Severe weather threat will be ongoing for my friends here in the Appalachian Mountain Range region and areas of the Ohio Valley Mid-South. We have a slight risk, which is basically a level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. That's basically down here for the Deep South, northern Alabama, North Georgia, all the way through West Virginia, areas of Kentucky, Virginia, all the way into the D.C., Baltimore region. So what we know right now is there's just a 15% risk of severe weather. And it's the same thing, guys. You know, you kind of re-go back over all this information, kind of left off where we started. We're getting into Tuesday morning, and you're going to have plenty of moisture in the atmosphere. Okay, Tuesday morning, you got dew points, you know, all the way into the 60s, all the way into West Virginia, maybe all the way into Pittsburgh. You still got this moist sector. It's beginning to collapse, but it's there. I think the storm motion will pick up. I think with the combining of the northern stream, in my opinion, I think you'll have a more so clusters of storms, kind of a line of storms. I don't know if you're going to have really many discrete supercells in this setup, but we'll see. I could be totally wrong. It's just a first kind of guess at it, but tons of moist air still bottled up here in the southeast, up here in the Appalachian Mountains, and kind of north and west of them also. So you definitely still got moisture, but it's beginning to collapse. You know, as we're getting into our Wednesday morning, you can see cold front really coming down, and Wednesday morning you're hanging on to these moist profiles for dear life, and then this entire phasing of the two streams here really creates a shot of cold air and dry air that really kind of stabilizes the entire eastern U.S. in general. But like I said, you know, you look at the CAPE values, and they are going to spike here. I mean, you got areas of 1,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE right here across sections of the Tennessee Valley, the Ohio Valley. So certainly a ton of fuel in the atmosphere still here from Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, areas of Virginia. I think some storms will be basically cruising in from the northwest over the Appalachian Mountains into North Carolina sometime Tuesday p.m. Okay, even some storms will be ongoing. I think a line of storms will be ongoing down here in the deep south also. And then eventually, we'll probably get a spike of some energy, maybe overnight, Tuesday night, kind of in the Carolinas. But I just think the placement of the time of the day, I think by the time we get into Wednesday, I think the atmosphere is pretty much stable. So, you know, same thing. You know, we'll just focus in on the mid-level jet with this setup. And you're going to have plenty of mid-level flow over this region. In fact, you will have more than probably Monday. And check this out. You got this mid-level jet pushing 85, 95, 100 knots, riding right over this section right here, creating plenty of forcing wind energy for these storms over that same area that has a 15% risk. And then you have this huge area of northern stream energy really dropping down and phasing. And then this thing just gets wild after that. And so 15% risk of severe weather. We'll be able to zoom into that a little bit more as we get a little bit closer, talk about the mesoscale models and all those things. But, you know, the snow from this, guys, I do want to mention this. Several inches of snow is very possible up into really South Dakota. Same thing with, I'm just looking at the blend of all models too. Same thing up here in Nebraska, a few inches of snow. Not a big event. This thing looks like it kind of fizzles out once it gets into Iowa, Minnesota. And then it kind of gets rejuiced here in the, in the Great Lakes region. Looks like you begin to get, the potential is there for a few to several inches of wet snow, really anywhere in the Great Lakes region, especially northern lower Michigan and the UP. So we got to watch this. This is more so for what's going to fall today. Well, it's added in for what's going to fall today, but there is a signal for snow all the way to Green Bay, even a little bit all the way down here into like southern sections of Wisconsin. This is the thing that I'm most interested in with the winter weather side of this. This could be a big time late season, early April winter storm as we are getting deeper into next week for the Northeast. Now, I think the blend of all models does an excellent job really sectioning out the higher elevations of the interior New England region. Adirondacks, obviously, right into here. Catskills into here. Berkshires, Green and White Mountains right into here. And then we get into the mountain ranges here in Maine. But check it out. Higher elevations of West Virginia, Western Maryland. This could be a pretty notable late season, what we call northwest flow snow event. So this looks like this could be a big system, guys. I mean, you see it, 8 to as much as 16, 20 inches of snow in certain areas. We need to watch this because some of the models, are everywhere with this. I think it's just smart to look at the blend of all models here. But, yeah. Whew, that was a mouthful this morning, guys. I'm going to keep on kicking with these videos. Seems like the views have certainly tanked. That's for sure. I was mowing the grass yesterday. I was kind of looking at my video that I dropped yesterday morning. I was like, was like, dang, views are just not there. But at the same time, I'm outside looking how beautiful the day is, and I'm just like, well, people are probably outside enjoying this nice weather. But guys, there is a pretty nasty storm system on the way, so definitely be aware of it, so it doesn't catch anybody off guard. But that's all I got, guys. God bless all you. I'm gonna try to get a video then this evening, kind of re-going over everything, seeing what's changed. But anyways, have a great start to your weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.